Good evening. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and this evening will be a card review of the Nova Hero Pack. I really liked the player cards in Sinister Motives. The scenarios were good standalone, but the campaign was not good for solo. Anyway, we'll take a look at this cycle. The last cycle, the Mad Titan Shadow, is pretty disappointing, I will say. So, we're off to a good start with Sinister Motive so far, and we'll see what we've got here with Nova. The alter ego is Sam Alexander, recovery 3, hand size 6, hit points 10, pretty standard. Alter ego action, spend 1 resource of any type, search your deck and discard pile for Supernova Helmet. Add it to your hand, put it into play instead if you paid for this ability using a wild resource. Well, let's take a look at Supernova Helmet right away. It's a 1-cost upgrade. Nova gains Aerial, exhausts Supernova Helmet, generate a wild resource. It's a very good resource generator, and it's very cool that you get to start with it in your hand, though you do then only start with 5 cards in hand, which is not great. I kind of wish you could just search your deck for the Supernova Helmet. The caveat of if it's a wild resource isn't really going to be something in your control, though it kind of will be because you can control how many wild resources you put in the deck. Let's see if there's other wild resource synergy to see if it's going to be, this is a hero that we'd really like to build a wild resource synergy deck for. We've got Nova, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 defense. That's very weak stats. So the standard for stats for a hero is 6. I'm hard pressed to think of a hero that didn't have 6 that's been elite. Let's see, what are our elite heroes? We've got Ant-Man. Yeah, he's only got 5 when he's in Tiny. But he does have his ability, which gives him +1 thwart when he moves, and he has 7 stats when he flips form. He has 7 stats when he's in Giant. So we can forgive the 5. We've got Captain America, who's at 6. We've got Ghost Spider, who's at 6. We've got Doctor Strange, who's at 5. But his cards are incredible. His hero cards are incredible. And then we've got Protection Iron Man, who only has 4, but he ramps up extremely hard. So that's what we're looking for from Nova in order to be considered an elite hero. If he's going to have 4 stats, then he's going to need really, really strong ramp, like Iron Man caliber ramp, to be an S-tier hero. If he had 5, we could forgive that if he had like Doctor Strange level hero cards. But anything less than the standard 6 is immediately suspect, and his hand size is the standard 5. Okay. After you use one of Nova's basic powers, thwart, attack, or defense, ready Supernova Helmet, which then generates a resource. Okay. Resource generation is very strong. So you can generate a resource every round. Though if you're using Nova's best basic power, which is his defense, you may not, well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you're still, no, it does matter because you ready your cards at the end of your turn. Then if you use Nova to defend, you may not actually need to ready Supernova Helmet, so this may come with a requirement that you actually have to use Nova's thwart or attack to take advantage of it. Unless you're playing Protection Nova and you've used Supernova Helmet to generate a resource for a defense card and then you ready Supernova Helmet after that. But if you're not playing Protection and the defense events that come with it, then you may not get a use out of this if you use Nova to defend, because Supernova Helmet may not need to be readied. His ally is Miss Marvel, 3-cost ally, 1/1/3. After you play an event, exhaust Miss Marvel and deal 1 damage to her. Return that event to your hand. Okay. So it's a combo ally. Her stats aren't good. In fact, they're really bad. So if you don't intend to use her to return events to your hand, she's not good. If you do intend that, this is a hard ally to evaluate. So generally, combos we evaluate based on how good they can be at their best. And once we've identified how good they can be at their best, then we try to figure out how easy is that combo to set up. Because it doesn't really do us a lot of good, for example, to have a game-ending combo, a combo that wins you the game immediately, if that combo is like 1 in 1,000 to set up. We wouldn't play that. If it was 1 in 100 to set up, 1 in 100 games you get a combo that wins the game, but the rest of the time it does nothing, we probably wouldn't play that. So first, what's the ceiling on this combo? Well, there's a wide variety of events this would be decent with. We haven't seen Nova's events yet. But the aspect events, like the aggression stuff, there's some bosses like, for example, Ronin, with the cards that are currently available to me in this progression series. The best strategy for downing Ronin is a rush strategy, and an ally like Miss Marvel could be helpful with that. For sure. So, we'll say we'll have to wait and see on Miss Marvel to evaluate how good or how weak she is. Based on her stats alone, she's bad. But this has high combo potential and is therefore difficult to evaluate. Now, she's a one-off, so that's going to be a hard combo to set up. But how good is that combo going to be when you do set it up? There's room for it to be very good indeed. But if you can't set up a combo with her, she's pretty bad. So are we looking at like an all or nothing type of hero? We'll see. Force Field Protection, a 1-cost event. When a friendly character would take any amount of damage from an attack, prevent 3 of that damage. If you paid for this card using a wild resource, deal 3 damage to an enemy. That's good value for that event. Very good value. It's like a jump flip, but better. Yeah, that's very strong value if you pay for it using a wild resource, and you'll always have one available with Supernova Helmet if you haven't used it for something else. So we are looking at some wild synergy here. How many of these do we get? 2? Okay. Lightspeed Flight, 2-cost event. Double the number of wild resources generated while paying for this card, so it could be 1 cost if you pay for it with a wild resource. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. Okay. It's not very good value, really. If you pay for it with 2, it's pretty bad. If you pay for it with 1, it's still not that good. So it's definitely no force field protection. It's going to be like an emergency. I don't have any other way to remove threat type of card, so I'll use this. But otherwise won't be very good. Even if we pay for it with a wild resource now. It's a superpower, and that's a superpower, so we could be looking at a deck that Deft Focus is going to be good in. Another superpower event, 2 cost. Again, double the number of wild resources generated while paying for this card. Deal 4 damage to an enemy. Okay, it's not good if we don't pay for it with a wild resource, but if we do, it's fine. It's okay. It's no force field protection, but it's okay. It's acceptable. Acceptable is a little underwhelming for a hero-specific card, but it's another superpower, so Deft Focus is looking like an auto-include for a Nova deck. Unleash the Nova Force, again another superpower, 1-cost event, max 1 per round. Until the end of the round, each time Nova defeats an enemy or removes the last threat from a scheme, ready Nova and draw a card. Okay. So if we can ready Nova and draw a card once, this is pretty good. If we can do it twice, it's amazing. It's one of the best events in the game if you can do it twice. if you can defeat 2 schemes or remove the last threat from a scheme twice, or remove the last threat from a scheme and defeat an enemy, this is amazing. So this could be a very strong combo card. We're definitely looking at a combo hero. And I like combo heroes. This actually reminds me of Miss Marvel. But the problem is combo heroes take a little while to get going, and the weak stats is a problem for solo for high difficulties. So we may be looking at a hero that's a lot of fun to play. I don't know if we're looking at an elite hero. For an elite hero in solo, the S tier heroes, they all have really good defensive abilities. And they all have a way to increase their hand size or gain extra resources. And Nova can gain a resource every round just from the get-go with Supernova Helmet. Every hero has a way to generate a resource, though. Not every hero has a way to start with it in their hand, but I would say that Nova is looking interesting, but not especially strong yet. He's looking like he's going to have a lot of weak turns and then a really, really amazing turn with Unleash the Nova Force. You get 2 of them, that's good. Connection to the World Mind, it's a wild resource and it does not count toward your hand size. So if you draw it, you get to draw 1 more card. I like that. That's a really good card. And a card of a type that we haven't really seen before. I like it a lot. This definitely makes Nova better. How many of those do we get? 2 of them? Okay. We've got his alter ego support. It's Jesse Alexander. 2 cost, exhaust Jesse Alexander. Shuffle 1 copy of Connection to the World Mind from your discard pile into your deck and draw 1 card. It's fine. You'd have to draw at least 2 cards to make this decent. We don't really want to be an alter ego, so in solo we're not going to play this. Almost never. And the Supernova Helmet, which we've seen before. Well, on turns where you don't have a force field protection, and you don't have a Unleash the Nova Force, Connection to the World Mind is pretty good too, but this hero is going to revolve around Unleash the Nova Force, and on the turns where you don't have that or the force field protection, it's going to be a weak turn. And so I think we're not looking at an S tier hero here. With better stats, it's possible. If he came with the standard 6 stats, we could be. But with 4 stats, no, he needs to ramp up harder than this to be an S tier hero with only 4 stats. Like Iron Man levels of ramp, and even then, he might not be S tier. If he couldn't reach Iron Man heights, he wouldn't be S tier with just 4 stats. There's no other hero that can do that besides Iron Man. So at best, we're looking at like a B, A tier hero, I think. Just because of the stats, really. And he's going to have some very powerful and very fun turns. Combo heroes are fun to play. But this particular one is not going to be S tier. Let's take a look at the cards that come with him. The first ally is going to be the Locust. 2 cost, 1/1, 2 health. Play only if your identity has the champion trait. Okay, so we're developing a new synergy. At first I thought this cycle was going to be about developing the Web Warrior synergy. Then I thought it was going to be about developing Web Warrior and Shield. Now we're introducing a 3rd one. So a lot of ideas getting piled into this cycle. The stats aren't good. 1/1, 2 health. After the Locust enters play, add 1 aggression event from your discard pile to your hand. I tend not to value that highly. We've seen allies that kind of do a similar thing or the exact same thing from each aspect. I don't think it's that good, but it does have combo potential, but you would need a specific combo in mind for this ally in order to run him in your deck. It's probably intended for like Miss Marvel or Nova combos, and there could be a deck where it makes sense. But you may have to cycle one time through the deck all the way before you are able to set up the combo, because this is only one card in a 40 to 50 card deck, and so it won't be reliable in the early game, and not reliable in the early game generally means not very good in solo. So we're looking for reasons to recommend this hero pack for players that don't have it, and the hero cards for Sam Alexander look fun, but not especially powerful. And the Locust probably falls into that category as well. There'll be a deck or two where he'll be fun, but clunky to play in solo in particular. Chase them down, we've seen before. Pitchback, 1-cost event, play only if your identity has the aerial trait. After your hero attacks, deal 4 damage to an enemy. So 1 for 4 is fine. Interesting that Nova's hero-specific attack only did 1 for 4. And only if you had a wild resource to pay for it. This is probably meant for combos like with the Locust, or... yeah, it's cheap. It allows you to use it on an Unleash the Nova Force turn. It's fine. It's fine. It's cheap damage. It provides adequate value for its cost. No Quarter, 2-cost event, requirement, 1 strength resource. Deal 4 damage to an enemy. For each point of excess damage dealt to that enemy by this attack, discard the top card of your deck and add each aggression card discarded this way to your hand. Interesting. Well, if you could draw 3 cards with this, it would be exceptional. If you could draw 2 cards with this, it's good. If you draw only 1 card, it's not very good. So how likely is it going to be? Well, we know 15 of the cards in the deck are going to be hero specific. Some of them will be basic. We're probably looking at like a 1 in 3 chance of adding an aggression card to your hand and any 1 discard. So probably on average this isn't very good. But sometimes it will be. This is really like a all or nothing type of hero pack. So there will be sometimes when this hero and some of these aspect cards are spectacular, but a lot of times when they're kind of lackluster. So high ceiling if you get lucky, but not very good a lot of the time, I would think. 1 by 1 cost event. Deal 2 damage to an enemy. If this attack defeats that enemy, deal 2 damage to an enemy. Well, obviously not very good against bosses. In this specific situation where you can take advantage of all 4 damage, it's fine. It's 1 cost for 4 damage. I'd probably rather play Pitchback if I had Aerial. Probably wouldn't play 1 by 1 very often. Maybe with Miss Marvel, though, because she could add the Embiggen buff, is it, I think, to each of these procs, so could be good in that scenario. Otherwise, probably wouldn't play this. I think it wouldn't be very often that this would go off for all 4 damage, and even if it does, it's adequate, it's fine, but nothing exceptional. If we're going to have requirements for our card to get full value, we'll need it to be better than adequate, I think. Power of Aggression we've seen. Fluid Motion, 1 cost upgrade. After you play an attack event, exhaust this card, your hero gets +1 attack until the end of the phase. Max 1 per attack event. We probably need to take advantage of that like 4 times for this to be good. Not easy to do. Would take a while. And you can only do one per attack event, so if playing 3 copies of it, if it didn't have that stipulation, I would like this card a lot more. I think this is a late game card. You have to play it in the early game, and it doesn't really pay off until you've used it a lot. I probably won't run this. But I would if I was running a deck with a lot of attack events, certainly. I haven't seen a deck like that I thought was good for solo, because defense is usually the name of the game in solo, either using the protection aspect or the leadership aspect. But in a multiplayer game, if you're running aggression and a lot of events, this makes sense to run. Give you some ramp into the late game. Honed Technique, 3-cost upgrade, requirement 2 science resources, max 1 per player. When you play an aggression attack event, if you paid for that event using a science resource, increase the amount of damage that event deals by its printed cost. Oh, okay. So what's that one card that does 3 and then 3? That would increase that card by 6 damage, right? We'd need to play events enough times that this card could deal 8 damage for it to be adequate. If we could do that reliably, 8 damage. This is a good card for aggression. I think this is a really good card. This really elevates aggression. This may even be a reason to buy this hero pack all on its own. For an aggression player. Now, it's not going to make aggression playable in solo, because what solo really needs is defense. And that means either blocking with allies or blocking with events. Protection and leadership are the 2 solo aspects at the moment. But this card, there are a couple of bosses that can be rushed down. In fact, some very difficult ones, I would say. Ronin in particular, where rushing him down is the best strategy, indeed maybe the only strategy for playing him as designed. And in that deck, Honed Technique could be something. It could be a card that helps you rush a boss like Ronin down. So it's not going to be like aggression's not going to be elevated to like the aspect that you play every time, like your go-to one, like protection or leadership is, but it could elevate aggression's utility against certain bosses. That's my opinion of this card, and this may be actually a reason to get the Nova Hero pack for that type of challenge alone. We get 3 of those. Do we... It's 1 per player, okay. Yeah, it would get absurd if it wasn't. Moon Girl. 3-cost ally. 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. Play only if your identity has the champion or genius trait. How many of those are there? We've got... Let's see, Ironheart, Miss Marvel, Nova, and Spider-Man as the champions. And then as geniuses, we've got Bruce Banner, Tony Stark, Riri Williams, Rocket Raccoon, all alter identities, Peter Parker. Okay, so the champion one is the more applicable. So it's Ironheart, Miss Marvel, Spider-Man. Okay, after you play Moon Girl from your hand, draw 1 card for each science resource used to pay for her. Well, if you use 3 science resources and you draw 3 cards, this is one of the best allies in the game if you do that. If you draw 2 cards, it's still exceptional. If you draw 1 card, it's not bad. Even if you only draw one card, it's not bad. So this is an auto include in any deck that has champion. Any deck where the identity has champion. I don't know if you include it if you have genius in a solo game, maybe in multiplayer, but for a champion, yeah. So if you like Ironheart or Miss Marvel, Nova, Spider-Man, this is one of the best allies in the game for those champions. It's really, really good. So we're seeing reasons to get Nova from these aspect cards if you're an aggression player or like one of these, if you like the champion heroes, or at least one champion hero. Everyday Hero. While your identity has the civilian trait, this card can be spent for any player and gains the text response after you spend this card for a player, heal 1 damage from that player's identity. There are a couple of heroes that really like to be in alter ego form, and if they have civilian, now, is that really worth spending a card slot on? In my opinion, no. I don't think I would play this. It's too niche. I mean, it's never terrible. It's always a wild resource, but yeah, I don't think so. I think there are better uses for the card slot. Champion's Mobile Bunker. Champion Vehicle. Exhaust Champion's Mobile Bunker. Choose an identity with the champion trait. The player who controls that identity may draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards from their hand. Interesting. It's a cycle card. It's extremely strong if you're frequently discarding cards that you had no use for and were going to discard anyway. It's not very good if you're discarding cards that were useful. There are certain heroes where you're trying to set up a combo, or where one card is really, really important to the hero. And for those heroes, this Champion's Mobile Bunker is going to be very good. And 2 come to mind right away that have the Champion's trait, and that's Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, and Nova, who are both combo-oriented champions. And for them, Champion's Mobile Bunker is going to be very helpful in establishing their combos more consistently. So this makes Champion's Mobile Bunker a good asset card for fun decks. I think Nova and both Miss Marvel are very fun. Not very strong though, and this card doesn't increase their strength. It increases the playability of their combos though, and allows you to get the combos off more often. So a good asset for fun, for a couple of fun heroes. Would I play it if I was playing like a Spider-Man and trying to do like a really serious deck? Well, it depends. If I'd identified that my hero has like one card that's super important to him, maybe. Like Ant-Man with Ant-Man's helmet. Ant-Man's helmet is extremely important to Ant-Man. If I could play Champion's Mobile Bunker and Ant-Man, I can't because he's not a champion. But if I could, would I do it? Yeah, I think I would do it. I don't know. I'd at least try it out in that deck. But at any rate, this is likely to be an asset for a deck like Miss Marvel or Nova. And we're into the obligation. So let's take a look at the remaining aspect cards. Yaw and Roll, 1-cost event. Aerial Thwart, play only if your identity has the aerial trait. After your hero thwarts, remove 3 threat from a scheme. Not a lot of value in this. 1 cost plus the card for 3 threat removal is pretty inefficient. Probably wouldn't play this even with Aerial. I think its purpose is to be a cheap combo card for Unleash the Nova Force, but if we have to play kind of inefficient cards in order to make a really efficient combo, it's not what we're looking for. We're looking to combo in a way that's efficient all around. Height Advantage, 1-cost upgrade while your identity has the aerial trait. Reduce the amount of damage you take from each enemy attack by 1. When your turn begins, discard this card. So it's just reduce your damage from each attack for 1 turn. You'd have to take like 4 attacks for this to be good. Otherwise it's going to be pretty inefficient, and that's really, really unlikely, so I probably wouldn't play this. And that looks like it's it. Okay. Well, we're looking at a hero that reminds me a lot of Miss Marvel, in that she's going to be he's going to be a fun combo hero to play, but not that powerful in solo. At least not for like difficult expert or heroic tier quests. But there's going to be some combos with him that are extremely cool. The same as Miss Marvel. There's going to be some combos with her that are extremely cool. And so probably a hero that's high on fun but not particularly strong. Not weak, but going to be kind of inconsistent and feel clunky at times. So probably a hero that makes more sense in multiplayer than in solo, because in multiplayer your teammates can cover you while you're setting up your combos. I'd say that about Miss Marvel too. In solo it's just you, and you've got to hit the ground running, or else you just get dumpstered when you're playing against certain scenarios on high difficulties. Apart from the hero cards, I do think Honed Technique has a lot of potential for aggression players, and that Moon Girl is one of the best allies, if not the best ally in the game, if your identity has the champion trait. So those would be the reasons for this hero pack, apart from the hero. So, thank you for watching.